I think that they also are concerned that some of the changes we've seen in Europe and the United States, which again are the main votes in these institutions, but some of the changes we're seeing in Europe and in the United States seem to be a real want to roll back transparency regulation. And some of the communities and countries rolling back that transparency regulation is going to hurt the most are countries in Africa.
Do you really think that we are about to experience some kind of, where countries, frankly, perhaps don't want to interact with others, some kind of isolationism, really? Is that possible when we're talking about global economies?
It's possible. I don't think it's likely to come in full fruition, but I think what we're seeing from the International Monetary Fund are warnings right now, because they're worried. And I think we've seen new debates recently at the G7 and the G20, which illustrate, what was the former kind of status quo is shifting.
Very interesting. Reverend Okule, for once at least you can be a good guy. I mean, do you have any specific recommendations or suggestions that perhaps Albert could learn from? Albert and his institution.
Actually, the question, what would what is needed in Africa from the World Bank today it's really let me start fighting corruption. To realize that this money, financial advising and transaction ends up in the pocket of very few people. In fact, in February 2013, African bishops at Madagascar, Catholic bishops from Africa at Madagascar, came up after a serious research. They said, quote, that we have to tackle corruption as #1 priority. And I'm quoting them. They said, corruption is like a cancer that stands in the way of Africa's development. So all these financial transactions without checks and balances, or they didn't actually go to the people, that's #1. Secondly, I think that if there is a means in terms of some of the financing, trying to create an environment where people themselves take ownership of what they do and apply it from their own perspective rather than from all the expert advice that comes top down, and which has led to the failure of many programs on the continent. Thirdly, I don't know whether this is really a World Bank project, but we need to find ways to make sure that Africa does not remain a land of perpetual raw material extraction.